everybody. Well, thank you for coming to the Superpower Happy Hour.
Have we hit record? Have we hit
welcome.
record? Are we recording?
Yes, yeah. I was
Okay,
told
we're on. We're
this will
live.
be great audio.
Am I on?
Yeah, you are. That would be really unfortunate if we just turned your mic off.
Well, there might be times
It
we
might
want
be
to.
ideal.
It might be ideal.
So I figured, for starters, we'll the four of us will introduce ourselves and kind of our podcast, why we're here, and then our esteemed host, Will Rose, pastor of Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, he is gonna go over to our awesome whiteboard, and we're gonna start talking about as many of those as possible. So, one thing, and Will's gonna talk more about this as well. You've gotten to the point in the weekend where if you're not over at Mason's Talk right now, you might be a little intellectualized out. You might be ready to just kind of hang with some friends and chat about stuff that isn't, science, philosophy, theology. Those are all awesome things. I was not asked to come here and do that, though. My name is Ryan Doze. I run Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast. So, all dozen of my listeners, I feel like, are already here. I'm so happy to be here. I drove. What did we drive, babe? We drive 27 hours to be here.
I'm Nathan Gilmour from the Christian Humanist Podcast. I only drove about 6 hours here from North Georgia.
Weak sauce.
Sorry, man. But
you should live further away.
Long-time comic book fan. Although, I mean, in this company, I'm the lightweight.
I'm Joshua Noel. I do some podcast stuff. I exist. I'm friends with Will.
What are some of those podcasts?
Yeah, we would like to know.
Okay.
What's your resume?
Yeah, my resume.
Yeah.
I started the Whole Church Podcast as a church unity podcast like 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay.
That's how I met Will. He mentioned some comic book stuff, and I was like, well, let's do a spin-off on that. We'll just do an episode talking about some of how theology and stuff we see these themes in our comic books, and then it became a whole ordeal, and now we run another podcast. We do like 2 or 3 episodes a week. It's Systematic Geekology, and I blame Will for it. So.
Yes, I am Will Rose. I'm the pastor here at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, and longtime geek. First fandom is in Star Wars, collected comics, have always been a part of that, and I started a God Loves Geeks book club in my church in South Carolina because these movies started coming out and people wanted to talk about it instead of talking about it in the narthex. I said, why don't we just, in between, before and after church services, let's get together over coffee or beer or a meal and talk about these movies. And then it turned into a book club, and then I had to bring that here when I came to Chapel Hill. And I've been a part of a lot of podcasts, whether it's with Tripp or Ryan, or even a part of the Christian Humanist Network. I've been on that one a
with
couple
Danny
of times,
Anderson.
With Systematic Geekology. So, and let me just share at the end of this, I do have. If you're still talking when it gets close to 5 o'clock,
we probably will
have, because look, we could do just pick one character or one movie and talk about it for hours.
Yeah. It's crazy how nerds can do that.
It's crazy how nerds can do that. So we're going to respect your time and not do that today, but we have lots of podcasts out there if you want to dive deeper into those things. But I have a wedding in a little bit that I need to go do the ceremony for. So if you jet me out, it's not because anybody said anything that I'm offended by, unless Joshua starts talking about which episode of Star Wars dislike. Anyway.
That surprisingly didn't make it on the board.
It didn't make it on the board.
No, it didn't.
But I want to set the scene for our listeners.
Yeah.
We're in our youth room here at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church, and we have some friends with us here in the youth room. Some are sitting on the couch with their legs up. Some have beers, some have coffee, some are just hanging out and can't wait to geek out on us. And what we did is that we wrote on our whiteboard here in our youth room, what are you geeking out on? And again, there's no wrong answers. Yeah. Everyone has permission. You have permission. To borrow a phrase from one of my favorite podcasts, you have permission to be a geek and geek out and take your faith seriously. And that's what we do with these podcasts. So what are you geeking out on? I'm going to just read some things that people wrote over the past couple days. Yes, Diana Butler-Bass said Columbo reruns. That's awesome. Again, there's no wrong answers. Wow. Severance on Apple TV, Queer Eye, Lower Decks, the Shanghai bus scene, the Shang-Chi bus scene.
Nice.
Who killed? What does it say? Rhonda. Who killed Rhonda?
I couldn't figure that one out,
No.
actually. Well,
Industry,
yeah.
Midnight Mass, Amazon's Lord of the Rings series, Andor, Dark Noir, Big Bang Theory, Severance. I
boy.
already said that. Marvel's Wastelanders.
Okay.
She-Hulk, Rings of Power. We said that too. Kevin can beep himself. All kinds of Bo Burnham Inside.
Fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Paper Girls on Amazon, but it was also a graphic novel by Brian K. Vaughan first, and Brian K.
Yeah.
Vaughan is my favorite.
Yeah.
author.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of things. So there's no wrong or right answers. Those are some of the things that people
Yeah.
are geeking out on, and yeah.
So-
Ryan, take it away.
So I'm also curious because we got about 15 people in the room here. Is there anything? People in the room, is there anything on that list? You're like, I'm looking at that list and something's missing. Do you feel like anything is missing? Something that you're passionate about? Something? Yes.
All the behind the scenes of all of those things.
Okay. All the behind the scenes of all the things. Guys, did you watch commentaries this week for the list that we didn't know was already up there?
Right. Yeah. Disney Plus has all those things, and I
Right.
did it in prep for today.
Yeah, we recommend Marvel Assembled. All the different great things on Disney. It's nuts.
Oh,
Oh my
so
goodness.
good.
Has anybody watched those the gallery episodes for Star Wars stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody know what the So well,
Yeah.
they've done. What was it? Watch the Kenobi one, where it's Hayden Christensen coming back to Star Wars. Was as you would say, my wife is in the room. She would say that's especially emotional.
I cried.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
I did too, but for different reasons.
Oh, okay. No. Here's the thing. We've been in here for 9 minutes, and I feel like Star Wars might be an okay place to start. We're gonna thoroughly upset Pastor Will here.
How much time do we have?
Well,
No, that's my number one
We got,
fandom.
four-
so
we got
have a- I have
41
opinions.
minutes.
Okay.
41 minutes, and Nathan we'll tell him what your shirt is.
Mos Eisley Cantina, where our friends don't like you and we don't like you either.
That sounds like Star Wars fandom. Yeah.
Will, where do you think a good place to maybe start with Star Wars fandom is?
Oga's.
What?
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Thank
I'm
you,
really
Daniel.
happy I brought this.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. You could have also said The Last Jedi, and that would have really got me going. But well,
Well, hold up. Let's talk about Last Jedi because I think I can make a case for it.
oh my gosh.
You think you
So-
can make a case for Last Jedi?
You don't.
I'll
have
do
to.
it right
It's
now.
almost perfect.
We haven't talked about miracles yet this weekend.
All right, so Last Jedi, what you got is a beloved franchise character. They're taking him in a new direction. Certainly the movie's got its oddities. It's got its wasted scenes. But one of the things that I really dig is that Luke Skywalker has changed over the years, but he returns to what he loves and what his duty is, not because of anything abstract, but because of his connections to other characters.
Do you see the twitch in his eye?
Oh, I do.
He's seething.
Most
underneath.
importantly, of all of the Star Wars movies, the only one where you see any resemblance of balance in the Force in the end is
Oh,
actually
stop.
The
That's
Last
not a big
Jedi.
theme in the
Continue.
series.
No. I will say that The Last Jedi is beautifully shot and directed. My favorite lightsaber scene in all the franchise happens in that throne room.
It's a good
with,
one.
It is the most amazing. I will watch that part. It is so badass and so awesome. But the characterization of Luke is where I have the most problems with because yes, failure is a big part of our journey. That's okay. It's not that he's perfect. It's the whole like abandonment of his friends and cutting himself off from the Force, the thinking that because of that failure he's going to just throw his lightsaber over his shoulder and just ditch everyone.
And that's
When he's
precisely what he does in his isolation until that connection with his friends brings him back. This is a redemption story.
Absolutely.
Pastor?
I understand the redemption story. But when you have Mark Hamill, the person who played Luke Skywalker, say it's a mischaracterization of his character, I'm going to believe Mark Hamill.
I'm not.
Oh. Ooh.
So I'm known as Josh with the wrong opinions. For those who didn't know.
He is.
That nickname did stick really
Yes,
well.
Yeah. Well, part of why I don't have any of those issues is because Luke is just an annoying character. So last
I
Jedi,
wanted to
the
go to
only time
Tashi
that he's,
Station,
like
took up some power
tolerable-
converters.
He's the only time he's tolerable is at Last Jedi. He was whiny the entire original trilogy. Then he comes back, and instead of being whiny, now he's grumpy. And grumpy's way more palatable than whiny.
Let me just say, okay. The reason we have systematic ecology together and that we do this is to model a healthy way to have conversations around disagreements.
Is
that
this
we
when
have.
you choke me live? Or?
No. Because there is, I'm gonna derail a little bit or change the subject from Last Jedi and Luke Skywalker to say, like, there is so much toxicity in fandom, and
Preach,
it's
Pastor.
not just in the church.
Talking about She-Hulk now?
The church, yeah, we can go to She-Hulk. I love She-Hulk so much. But there's like, oh my gosh, it's so good. But like, we set out, one of the goals that we wanted to set out systematic ecology with was to model how to have healthy conversations. He has a whole church podcast, Church Union Podcast. How can we do that within fandom and geekdom as well, that we can have these disagreements and still be brothers and sisters and family and friends together, and not to create rivals or to cancel anybody, but to say, like, you know, how can we be friends, and how can we walk along together with these disagreements? And so that's why we want to do that in these forums and podcasts too. So yeah, we have fun, we jar, we have bad opinion. That's horrible. How could you ever think that? Which hopefully will model also how we can do that in the realm of like religion, theology, communities there as well. So that's why.
Well, would you say the conversations invite a concrescence of the openness of every moment to the adventurous and the zesty?
Woo!
I think that's exactly
But that-
how Dr. Tripp Fuller would say.
I have
That's
no
what I
idea what
heard.
any of that means, by the way. Those are just Tripp words, and I just strung them together.
Yeah, you did it perfectly.
Fantastic.
Amen. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So Josh brought this up, and it was mentioned on our board. Okay, if we talk about She-Hulk, everybody? So, okay, now I realize there are 4 white guys up here. And we're going to talk about a green lady. She is, have we all seen the finale yet?
I
I
haven't.
just saw it last night.
Okay. Nathan?
Hey,
Oh no!
Oh, goodness.
okay.
Are you okay?
All right.
You stirred up a fandom so much with the finale that's, you know.
That's...
That's
No,
okay.
we're good. We're good.
That's
As long
how
as
much.
you're okay.
As long as you're.
Good.
Okay, good.
We started talking about
I think
She-Hulk,
we-
and he
but
wanted to smash
I think we can
something.
talk about She-Hulk without spoiling the finale.
That's a
think
good
we can do
idea.
that.
That's a good idea.
We can talk in general terms of the show without like specifics of what happens.
For those of who are not partaking. yet.
Or listen to this podcast. Say I want to hit pause first, and then. But anyway, no, like we can talk about Durant.
So yeah, so in case you don't exist on the internet, She-Hulk, the show created a little bit of a how do you say like an internet kerfuffle. When for several different instances and reasons. Now, I'm curious with my panel members, what was your favorite ludicrous thing that people got mad about with She-Hulk?
Nerfing the Hulk.
Explain nerfing the Hulk.
All right,
Nathan.
so Nerf, of course, are the the footballs and the dart guns and somewhat that are
yes.
not supposed to cause injuries, but if you're creative enough, that doesn't stop you. And so the complaint was that in the comics and to some extent in the MCU, the Hulk is this force of nature that can destroy planets, and yet She-Hulk becomes She-Hulk for the first time and seems to beat him in single combat. And what in the world have they done with the
How
Hulk?
dare he? So nerfing the Hulk. Okay, I get it. Josh, what was your favorite insane complaint about the She-Hulk show?
From the beginning, the absolute wildest thing that I just never imagined I'd see comic book fans complaining that they did something too close
Ooh.
to the comic book. Like,
Yeah,
oh man,
you
this
know
is
what?
too much like the
That-
comics. What the fuck
She
are you
broke
talking
the-
about,
she-
man?
She broke the fourth wall. Holy shit!
My God.
Like that's Deadpool's thing, right?
Right.
You
And
know where
see-
he got it from, right?
She-Hulk.
Yeah, here's She-Hulk, the savage She-Hulk
Diago.
from the 1980s, is breaking the fourth wall on the cover, and is smart and witty and a career woman who has relationships and not afraid to be feminine and sexy and have boyfriends and have sex and be a hero and be a lawyer. And so all those things of like, I cannot believe she's doing all these things. Why you're like lightening her up, or she's not this, she's not that. I'm like, have you read the comics? She does all these things.
You're mad she's a fully developed character?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh no!
And
How
my
dare you.
favorite
That's
part
the
that
worst.
the show does is that it leans into those things of like, she's trolling the trolls, but they're not afraid to be also self-aware, also to troll themselves as well. And that's kind of leads its way through. And so one of my favorite parts is there in the first episode, Bruce Banner's looking at her, he's like, you got to get in control of your anger and do that. And she's like, I'm a female lawyer in an all-male office. I think I know how to control my anger. So that kind of thing, and that held up the mirror to kind of the toxicity of fandom. And so I think that's what people are tweeting about and upset about, is they get super defensive when they feel like they're being pointed out. But again, it's revealing kind of the nature of this character and the nature of like fandom these days, which I loved every minute of it.
Brother Joshua.
I just gotta say, while we're being nerds, I do not buy that it is because she's female in her experience that she has control of the Hulk. I do think those things are true, and I think that's probably why she thinks that's happening.
Okay.
I think there's something deeper there that has to do with how Hulk has altered his own genetics before it got into her blood system, and we'll probably hear more about that later.
What I mean, you challenged me yesterday along this similar.
I'm sorry.
You
happens
challenged
in nerd
me
culture.
and a new friend of mine, James, that you knew the nerdiest thing. You had done the nerdiest thing. And fellow nerds in the room, if someone says to you, I know the nerdiest thing, usually I'm like, I call bullshit on that. Because there's probably something nerdier that someone else far off and wherever knows. James and I stand there as Josh gives a 10-minute thesis on a game that is based on like law and religion thousands of years in the future. It's an RPG that took all this, complex. There's footnotes in the rule book. That's insane. And I turn to James and I say, shit, he got me. That was really good.
I gotta say, I only admit that it was the nerdiest thing that I had done.
I think it's the nerdiest thing that's ever happened, though. and like
that's possible.
That kicks, fan fiction. LARPing. RPG. Dungeons and Dragons. No, I made my own role-playing game based on law and religion, and the rule book has footnotes.
We also had some biology genetic scientists help us with some
good.
of the evolution
in case you didn't really set it over the edge.
Well, we had to make sure it was as accurate as possible.
This make-believe. Yeah,
of course.
It is one thing nerds get really crazy about. It's like, this is all make-believe, but like, we got to make sure it makes sense, though. It's like, let's use our imaginations, and once we get past a certain age, it's like you can imagine so many different things, but then it becomes this. But does it make sense? Does it make sense to use my imagination? I'm like, if we were all 9, we'd be like, who cares if it makes sense? Like, you don't. It's funny with all these properties that we've seen on our board, and we'll get to a few more here in just a minute. But with Star Wars, with She-Hulk, how much of it is A, plausible, and B, actually makes sense? Where kids can understand this. My daughter is 6 years old, and all she knows about She-Hulk is she's a big green lady. It's all she knows. But it's fair though. But we're sitting here. I'm sitting here as a 31-year-old comic book fan. Like, well, actually, you see the source material. It makes more sense if you think about it this way. And it's like, at some point, that little kid in you dies, and we haven't found out how to resuscitate the inner child in us.
Well, let me go there for just a second, Joshua. I think it's analogous to also how we emerge, deconstruct, and reconstruct our faith as well. Like, how many of us have is that second, third grade Sunday? We still hang on to the second, third grade Sunday school, Noah's Ark story picture Bible, and then you really look at the text, and you really re-examine it of what really is going on there, and the violence that is going on, and all those kind of things, and then we start to like, whoa, what's really behind this text? And I think, we were joking earlier that like, yeah, we love comics as a sense of escapism or imagination, to kind of hold up a mirror to ask the bigger questions of life and faith and how we relate to the world. There's also a way that invites us to ask the bigger questions of existence. Yeah. What makes a hero? What makes a villain? Where is my community? Who's my team that's going to help me through these things? What do I believe about the universe, if it has meaning or not? Is it just nihilistic, where it doesn't have any purpose, or is there something behind it all that's pointing to a greater purpose? So I think, yeah, these could be just funny books for kids or whatever, or they're like these grand stories that can draw us into the deeper questions that we're all wrestling with. And so I started collecting comic books as just kind of a way, as a hobby, to kind of decompress after long days of ministry. And eventually, these movies and comic books are still drawing me back in to ask these big questions that, again, are like, when I do the God Loves Geeks book club and others, we read these and we said, yeah, I love the art, I love what the author did there, like we do with any book club, but also, what are the big questions that this story is asking us to reflect upon? What mirror is it holding up to our own existence? And so it helps us go deeper as well. And so it's not just church faith settings that people are hopefully asking the big questions, but it's happening at Comic-Con, it's happening within the comic book store. And so how are these stories helping us do that? So, and that's kind of what what Nathan was saying in terms of, he's done a whole work on a whole series of Jonathan Hickman's
We're gonna get Nathan all riled up.
Avengers run that goes super deep into like these things. So it's not just funny books for kids, and it is there's an element of that, but there's also what story or narrative are we attaching meaning to.
And before, I'm not going to go Hickman right now. Don't worry. We are going to get out of here in an hour.
I was going to say, if at some point you could explain to them your rubric of how to judge things and how you approach that.
Well, that's actually a question I'd like to pose to you three.
Yeah.
Josh, I may have a quick. Is this quick? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Oh, sorry, man.
Yes.
Go ahead.
About the imagination thing, and you were talking about.
All right, I did say that a while back.
Yes, yeah. It makes me think of C.S. Lewis and his doctrine of the imagination, which is fascinating stuff, because he makes this point, and it's a lot of times, we have these theologies, process theology, penal doctrine, all this post-penal doctrine, all this other stuff that we would try to get across to people, and these ideas that are very important ideas. But he's talking about this idea that basically our minds have already made up what we want to believe. We have the troll that's standing there guarding our minds, and the thing that imagination lets you do, the thing that story lets you do, is kind of sneak past that. So you can see something deeper, because you're not confronting an idea you already have your guard up against. And that's where I think a lot of these comic book stories, a lot of the stuff that we're doing with Deep and Thinker is incredibly important, not just because, hey man, isn't it fun to just talk about She-Hulk smashing Matt Murdock?
It is.
But also,
spoiler.
Also, man, it is. They don't know what that means. It's fine. It's
We're
cool.
gonna do an altar call.
But it's
like you're talking about fighting, right?
Yeah. It's well.
No, I'm sorry.
His ass has not been whooped yet. But we have this format to see deeper, not only to ideas that help us spiritually as Christians, but also we are challenged deeply. The Miss Marvel comics, the She-Hulk show, that ending, how it challenges the fans even.
Oh my gosh.
Imagination is incredibly powerful, sometimes more powerful than theology.
Yeah. Nice.
So here's a question I want to pose in response to that, because I agree with what we all are saying. One element of fan culture, and especially online fan culture, is that when I attempt these, what I would call allegorical readings, because I teach medieval literature, when I want to look at the psychological and the existential and the political and all these sorts of things, right? Sometimes the appeals to the mechanics and the details, right? So in other words, when we try to do a reading of She-Hulk, in a feminist vein, right? It's, the genetic modifications that Bruce made during the Professor Hulk episode in between Infinity War and Endgame actually accounts for that better. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, but I like the feminist allegory better. I mean, can those things coexist, or do they short-circuit each other? Because my fear is that they tend to short-circuit each other.
So you're the college professor on the table. So
I guess I am. All right.
So when you say like they kind of shorten the gap between those things, do you think it's more helpful for fans to have the long journey of coming to that ascent through the process of it, or when shows, because it's a different medium, movies and TV have to tell stories differently. That's another thing that fans kind of lose their minds about, is, you know, when they adapt something, it's like, well, this isn't like the 20-issue comic I read. Well, yes, it's because you read a book, and then we're like, oh, they made a movie about the book, and you know, movie versus book is a huge thing.
Yes.
Which do you prefer as someone who is a professional educator, someone who is helping people learn ideas as well?
Yes.
Oh.
All right, so no, let me answer for real. You know, I think that they're doing different things. I think that, you know, the short form, you know, feature length picture, or even the short form television series allows us to take in a far greater spectrum of things all at once, right? I think that, you know, any kind of discursive, you know, novelization, right, narrative fiction, engages us more actively, and I really dig that. But it also means that anytime we want to, we can close the book, put a bookmark in, and set it aside, whereas the film keeps coming at us, whether we're ready or not. Now, I understand we can hit the pause button, but it's more uncomfortable to hit the pause button than it is to put that bookmark in. And if anyone disagrees with me, I'll talk to you after the talk.
Oh, boy.
Well, and much like different languages, including art, music, whatever, can tell us different things about God, same things are true about these formats telling different stories, right? When you look at some of the comics, most of the comics, I would say their stories are better, but sometimes you look at the movie, and the movie does a better job. The Iron Man, Tony Stark, in the MCU films, infinitely better than Tony Stark in the comics, primarily because he can actually have a redemption story. He can actually die a hero, because the comics will never let that happen.
Okay, I like Hickman's nihilistic Iron Man.
Oh.
Continue.
All right, so
that we can adequately lose everybody.
So in this run of Avengers that I wrote about that you referred to earlier, what you get is the opposite story arc of the MCU. So Tony Stark begins with something like that, the closest thing Tony Stark can get to noble motives for doing what he does. And I'll try not to do too many spoilers here. But by the end of the arc, he is so far gone morally that he is doing things that, you know, I'm thinking, okay, Thanos, who is also part of this arc, would blush at. Okay, so I mean, you know, for me, simply because, you know, I want to explore that psychology of evil, right? And, you know, that idea that that I get from Augustine, other people get from other places, that, you know, the reason that we do evil is because we're trying to grasp onto things that are genuinely good because they're part of God's nature, but that were never meant to be in the possession of human finite beings. I'm watching Tony Stark do that in these comics, and it is horrifying morally and psychologically, but it is so compelling literarily. And I said I wouldn't do this, and I'm sorry, but I'm going to stop there.
So like Tony Stark broke bad? Was that because?
He did more than broke bad. I mean, he became worse than Thanos.
Well, those small decisions you make, Walter White, all the way to the end. You know, I mean, is there in the comics. And so again, these funny books just for kids, or are they stories that we're writing, digesting, consuming to help us wrestle with our own mistakes, to wrestle with how we see hero versus villain?
And are we meant to have that kind of power?
Yeah,
I mean, that, you know, that's
it's a good one, Nathan.
To transition a little bit away from comics eventually. Well, listen, we got other things. We got other things on that list. Look at that board. Look at that board.
I know.
Look at the. Okay, listen.
Just so you know,
here.
we will give each of us is going to give a recommendation at the end that we encourage you all to go find. So we will have a moment at the end where we actually give you something to go seek out. But sorry,
source
Josh,
material.
you're saying,
Okay, yes.
You were ranting
I think
about
a
the
lot of
board and how
times
important the
the
board is.
miniseries,
Yes.
you're talking about like that comic. A lot of times, just having an expiration date allows some of the stories to be better because they can have an actual arc.
Right.
Much like Tony Stark in the MCU, Tony Stark as a nihilist in that story. Hell, I even got to say Steve Rogers was better in the movies. They didn't get the character as well done, but he had an actual he got to have a happy ending. You'll never get that in comics, man.
He did.
And
get old.
I'm looking at sometimes it is just better to have an actual expiration date.
Right.
And I'm thinking of even some of the shows I love. Supernatural. I love Supernatural. It was meant to end at season 5. Season 5, we see the ultimate
not.
sacrifice of someone going into the pits of hell, and then they were like, wait a minute, we can make more money? Let's have this go for 15 seasons, man. And I'm like, guys, come on.
Are you
had the best
He
ending.
is so fired up right now. I love it. This is the most I've seen Joshua fired up. And as someone who's like known as having the one who's having the bad opinions, when he said that, there are some people in the room that nodded their heads
Whoa.
in agreement.
Don't
Miracles
affirm him
do
that
happen
much.
at beer
It'll
camp.
continue.
My opinions are improving.
They're improving. A miracle happened.
So, Josh, are you implying that nerd geek culture has been co-opted by capitalism in this way, that we just keep making stuff? Wait, do we have too much content and not enough stories?
Sometimes. I love that there's more Star Wars and more Marvel and all that out there. I also love that Werewolf by Night was an hour long, which made it a beautiful story. I also think
We got to talk about Werewolf by Night.
Listen, I'm thinking of the right before we took over here. This room was the Tolkien room, and they're telling
Yes,
that
it was.
story.
Some of it
right
has
there.
remained.
Shout out, Nick.
The old Toby is still on the table.
Yeah, listen. The story of Lord of the Rings, according to C.S. Lewis, the best friend of the author, was primarily about industrialism, being anti-industrialism, and that's what I'm thinking with this. A lot of times, what we actually see is there's this evil that's taken over, this power that's consuming us. Of we want more and more content, we want more and more digitalization, more and more sitting in front of a TV, and sometimes even as geeks, we need to take our comic books outside. Maybe I don't know.
Wait, hold on. That's where the sun lives. Like,
I am a Florida boy.
I
I have wrong opinions because my brain has been fried, my friend.
when you said C.S. Lewis said this about Lord of the Rings, Will and I instantly looked to Nick in the room, and he was looking down at his phone. And we're like, yes, no, I
No, no.
please tell us, because he's the token head. He's the token head. So
Nick will be coming to Systematic Geekology in 2023. Be
Oh
looking-
boy,
Keep
oh
a
boy,
lookout.
Systematic
coming
Geekology
soon
Con.
on Systematic Geekology.
So I feel like we should hit a few of the things on our board. We've hit She-Hulk.
Yep.
We've hit a little bit of Star Wars. We've talked a little bit more broader about nerd culture being interlaced with how we learn and how we understand story and narrative. Which is there anything on there, Will, that you as our host, as our esteemed pastor on the panel, you feel like must be talked about before the four of us get to our recommendations?
It's hard for me. Somebody
I
shout out
have
something.
one.
Somebody shout out something. Nope. Shout out something.
Okay.
Columbo. I have no idea what that's about, but
Talk to
everybody geeks
Diana
out on
Butler Bass
something.
about
Talk to Diana
Yeah, I
Butler
don't know what
Bass.
that
Yeah,
is.
thank-
No, it is a fun detective. I guess I'm going to be the old guy here.
Yes, do it.
Oh, Diana,
Nathan,
Diana,
yeah.
you're here.
Yeah.
It was Diana all along.
It is a fun detective show because it is not your standard, DNA test procedural. But he is just a master of psychology and a master at getting people to give themselves away. So it's just fun to watch him outmaneuver and outsmart, as Diana said, all of these rich white guys.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of those shows that like it's self-contained. It's not like a big continuity from one cliffhanger to the next.
Right,
It's like,
right.
It's the mystery
Crime of the week.
that they do, and then it ends, and you wait for the next one. So
Who said
that's
Scooby-Doo?
great storytelling. Yep.
So, did we have an answer from?
Any others?
Yeah, we shout
Who
out
wrote down Midnight Mass?
Avatar.
No,
Oh my gosh.
A Chord of Thorns. And
There-
Fairy fantasy, but yeah, it's spicy.
It's spicy.
a
Should
chord,
I-
a
should I
chord
know?
of Thorns and Roses.
Do I need
Someone
to go
whose
watch
last
this
name
right
is
now?
Rose.
It's not a movie yet. It's not a TV show yet, but it will be.
Yeah, there's a side podcast happening in the audience.
There is.
About
And I love it.
this
But there's an
concept.
example.
I'm
wait.
trying to get recommendations
Yeah,
from
so
our
here's
audience right
here's
now.
the thing. Like at the end of Systematic Geekology, we always do recommendations just because we geek out on something, and then our co-host was like, "What do you have a recommendation for our audience?" And as I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of geek culture and know a lot about geek culture, there's always someone who brings something up.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. That's not in my wheelhouse. There's only so much in my bandwidth.
It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, but I understand the recommendations. Like, I geek out on this. This is cool. Maybe you should check it out. And maybe somebody will say, like, yeah, maybe this isn't your speed. You should avoid that. But, yeah. But there's always a cool recommendation that someone can give that's not.
So, oh,
Well, Big Bang Theory is on the wall.
yes.
And so there's talk about like geek culture going mainstream.
Right,
There's a
right,
show
right.
when the MCU and the movies were getting popular and everybody started wearing like Marvel T-shirts and Star Wars T-shirts, which is great. I love it. We're in Comic-Cons, and San Diego Comic-Con became super popular, and like that was like the hub of the wheel. Big Bang Theory then kind of also said, all right, here it is. And so I haven't watched a whole lot of it. I do understand why people really love it. I haven't watched a ton. But does it hurt geek culture or does it help geek culture?
Oh, it helps. If you don't mind.
I do not actually, but I would like to add into this because it's a show that I'm currently almost at the end of.
Oh well, I'm not gonna say much about the show.
Oh,
I love the show,
Okay.
but mine was just a quick fun story. I grew up extremely sheltered. There was a lot of Disney movies I wasn't allowed to watch until I left home.
What was the nastiest Disney movie you weren't allowed to watch?
Honestly, I think that there was one on it. I shit you not. There was a Winnie the Pooh that
He never wears pants.
No. There was a Kids in Mind review that said that it said the H word once. It said hell, so I wasn't. Which wasn't
Where
even
is
true.
that movie?
It was just a bad review. It wasn't even true.
I think Winnie the Pooh's H word is honey. Pretty sure.
I hope so.
That's
I hope
okay.
so. But
You could've gone with
because
Little
I was
Mermaid.
so sheltered.
Yeah.
There's just, and to this day, there's just a ton of stuff that I like. People will tell me, and I'm like, huh? And they're like, Josh, that was literally the most popular song for 20 years in the American. And I'm like, what? Huh? Never heard of it. Like, but
in recent days, you're like, who's Blink 182?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, when I went to college, for the first year, people were just calling me Sheldon, and I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. Until my roommate played an episode once because when I went to the dentist, they had a journal of trains, and I snuck it with me. And I was like, they won't know that I took this thing of trains. I love
Stole
trains.
a journal of trains.
I love trains, man.
Oh.
I just had like all these random
Everybody
facts about
geeks
trains
out
in
on
Europe. I was like, sure.
Nathan, do you have any hot takes about Big Bang Theory? Because I'm about
My,
to.
my only hot take is,
Yeah.
first of all, I did not want to watch it, but my wife did, so I did.
Yep. that's how
First
my life
episode to
goes.
last episode on HBO Max. And my one observation as the resident academic
Okay.
is that it is great as long as they're talking about things you haven't studied. But then when they start to mention, like philosophy or history or literature, I'm like, who the hell wrote the script? So
Does not get the Nathan Gilmour stamp of approval.
they might be right about everything I haven't studied.
Everything I don't know, they might be right about, but if I know about it, probably not. So Big Bang Theory is. Will touched on this really briefly, because how many of you, if you're above a certain age, you're like, yeah, all the shit that is cool right now was not cool when I was a kid. And then, like, I couldn't walk around and be like, oh, there's someone in a Captain America t-shirt. There's someone in a Superman shirt. Like, and they're just wearing it in public. Like, don't they know they're gonna get bullied and they're gonna get a wedgie or all that kind of stuff? If I would have worn or talked about half of the stuff that I've talked about and worn this week, even, I would have been bullied even more than I was when I was a child. So I think Big Bang Theory actually speaks to part of a societal shift to where nerd and geek culture was not a subculture anymore. It kind of became pop culture. Things like we can have a discussion about Tolkien lead into sorry, I just keep pointing at Nick in the crowd. We can have a discussion about
So much
Tolkien in these wide spaces because of things like Rings of Power and things like the movies. They offer up the topic in a accessible way to people that don't know the deep lore about the Silmarillion and the Children of Hurin and like all that stuff. Did I lose anybody there? Okay,
No,
good, awesome.
Oh,
So
we got some.
Hey,
geeks.
Ryan, have you seen my Captain America hat?
no, I look forward to it.
I have one, and it's just a blue cap with the shield on it. People ask me where I get it, and what's really fun is I got it long enough ago that they didn't sell Captain America hats. I bought a blue hat and sewed on a patch that I had to special
I have
order
heard
online.
this story. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Talk
So-
about geek
Just
cred.
blows my mind that people actually know who that is now.
Getting to Big Bang Theory on this, it put pop culture, it put geek culture in such a prime spotlight that it facilitated it becoming mainstream. And that's a term that we get to use a lot with pop culture and geek cultures. Oh, did blank become mainstream? Newsflash. Iron Man comics sucked. They're not good. So like there's little bright spots, but Iron Man was not this big, Oh my goodness!
A-list hero.
He was not A-list. But
As it turns out, Robert Downey Jr. is really good.
Who'd have thought?
B-list
But
villain.
Big Bang Theory was part of this shift, and I think whether that show, like Nathan said, whether it gets everything right or gets it accurate,
doesn't.
What it did accomplish was giving a subculture, a subgenre, a platform to where we can now tell stories in the way we receive them and hear them. But what has then happened is we just became pop culture. And now it's like, what other stories get to be told? What other things what other different perspectives get to be brought in? That's where, we have these books. I'm sorry, I'm preaching. So we go from the minority to the majority, and now we're seeing that time even in like the current phase of Marvel movies. How many of you have heard the term MCU? Anybody?
Not till now.
I love that the two hands I saw belong to ladies. So there's this idea like, oh no, women are being highlighted. It's like, yeah, we got like 25 movies of white dudes. That's okay. Like that's okay. But Big Bang Theory was kind of the genesis of switching that public persona of pop culture being nerd culture, and nerd culture being pop culture. Guys.
Well, that leads into so this also goes into like, they made Thor a lady Thor.
I will preach on this,
and then that will lead into here. We have a few minutes. I have to jet here in a little bit, but we'll get to
recommendations.
Recommendations. Yeah. We would love to hear what you're geeking out on, and if there's a story, there's a graphic novel, there's a movie, reach out to us, DM us, follow us on our podcast, do those kinds of things, social media. But one of the things we want to do is just kind of share with you something that's meaningful to us that we think you should read, that has kind of a depth to it, that you could start your own God Loves Geeks book club in your own community, wherever. One thing I want to recommend is Tom King and Lee Weeks' Batman story called Cold Days. It's a short graphic novel, and the premise is that Bruce Wayne is called to jury duty. That sounds like a fascinating story, doesn't it? Well, comes to fact, he's coming off like him being stood up at the altar by Catwoman, and he's really pissed off. And Mr. Freeze is supposedly done this horrendous crime. Batman's the one who busted him and threw him in jail. But guess what? Bruce Wayne comes and wants to go on jury duty to prove Mr. Freeze's innocence. And in this jury kind of courtroom drama, the art's fantastic. They're even wrestling. Bruce is talking about like how his parents were religious and how he doesn't adopt that same religion because he had this kind of trauma when he was a kid and he doesn't know if he can believe in a God that will allow his parents to be killed or not. And he's wrestling with his agnosticism and atheism. And then eventually he's talking with a woman there on jury duty who has a cross on. He's like, and they start talking about sacrifice. And by the end of the book, I'm not going to tell you what happens, but they start quoting like Job. And there's this like little 3-story arc of this graphic novel. I'm like, I cannot believe this is on the comic book shelves in our comic book store, and a pastor just bought it and is reading it. It's fantastic. So go out, find that graphic novel. Don't buy it on Amazon. Go to your local comic book store. Support your local
comic book stores.
Yeah. All right.
Josh, your recommendation.
My local comic book store is like an hour and a half away. I can't do that.
That doesn't sound local.
I don't know. That's the closest one, man. So you were mentioning how comic books went from kind of behind the scenes to mainstream.
Very.
Talking about that with some of the ladies and all these other characters coming out, it reminds me a lot of what Christianity has done, of how we were kind of the persecuted, the minority, and now that we were in power, what do we do with that? And we're seeing that a lot with some of this toxic fandom. I mean, you look at She-Hulk, and all of a sudden all these people who were a few years ago just happy that someone else knows who Captain America is.
We got a Spider-Man movie? What?
Yeah. And now it's, how dare you do She-Hulk? That what?
Yeah.
what happened to just being happy you have Daredevil at all, man? Anyway.
Do you have a recommendation
Yes,
that
yes.
listeners and people in the room can go seek out if they want to take some of these themes we've talked about deeper?
Yeah. My favorite comic of all time, probably,
Do tell.
is Hellboy in Hell, by Mike Mignola. It's a graphic novel now, I guess. But it's Hellboy's wrestling with this question of where he was born basically part demon or full demon, however you want to read it, and is sent back into hell, having been out of that and played sort of the part of the reluctant hero for so long, and is questioning, where do I belong? Do I belong in hell? And as someone who has always wrestled with their own humanity, wrestled with their own downfalls, especially just some of my mental health stuff and all that, I relate so much. And I'm like, yeah, where do I belong? Do I belong in hell? What makes me not belong in hell? And there's some big questions in that. And there's very few words. It's just art, and you can just see it. And the way he portrays that and tells that story is absolutely beautiful.
And Josh did mention the artist, the creator of this character, Mike Mignola, is to call him a good artist almost feels like I'm
I'd
not
have to start
doing He's a
Doctor Who
legend.
Dalek. Blaspheme, blaspheme.
good one. I was waiting for that Doctor Who reference.
I was fine. I was waiting for an excuse.
So Nathan, what would be the one thing you'd recommend to listeners and attendees at the Superpower Happy Hour they go check out?
Well, I'm going to throw back to what I was talking about earlier. Jonathan Hickman's run on New Avengers and Avengers. The kind of core of the story is in a big volume called Infinity that you can get used bookstores at this point. But what's great about it is that there is an Avengers storyline and a New Avengers storyline going simultaneously, informing each other. In the Avengers storyline, Thanos is back. He has brought the Black Order with him, and he thinks he's all the stuff and he's the big threat to the universe. In the background, it turns out some characters who I grew up to think of as the superheroes are actually much, much worse.
But you really do know how to end a sentence.
I do teach college. I've got to keep the attention of 18-year-olds.
Ooh, that feels like a huge problem to wrestle with. But so the whole reason why I came here, why I have this relationship with Will and gentlemen on the panel and Tripp Fuller, is I had a deep connection to the Thor comics. So for those of you that cannot see me right now, I'm sporting a Jane Foster Thor shirt. Jane means a lot to me. The character that may mean a little bit more to me was recently seen in the latest Thor film. He is Gore the God Butcher. So you might think we're at like a semi churchy belief in God thing. Why are we talking about a God Butcher? So in my leaving of church, in my leaving of being a pastor, you can hear more about this study or this part of my life on the Homebrewed episode I did. But a big part of this was discovering a medium outside of Scripture that spoke to me in a very spiritual way. So I read a comic book. Now, again, Will mentioned funny books for children. What I'm going to recommend to you is not a funny book for children. I recommend you go and read. It's Thor, God of Thunder, issue number 6. I will spoil this one thing. Thor is not in the book. He is not in there. If you're looking for Chris Hemsworth to come in and break into the scene with a fart joke, it's not happening. This is
not even without a shirt on.
Good. Ooh. As Kevin Garcia would say, amen. There is a story that needed to be told at this point in Thor comics. It was, how does a God Butcher become a God Butcher? Mm-hmm. How does a person of faith become someone who is faithless and is so dead set on faith not being a part of not just his life but anyone's life? How do spiritual systems become so damaging that you want the person that created the system to not exist? How does a God Butcher basically the making of a God Butcher? That is issue number 6. Imagine, those of you that were good Sunday school, good church kids, picture with me the story of Job. Now imagine that Job doesn't give a fuck what God thinks. That is the story.
Have you read Job?
Imagine it without. Okay, Nathan, the professor called me out. Imagine it without getting tenfold back. Imagine without getting your kids back. Imagine that whole story, but it has a more nihilistic ending.
Yeah.
And then you can maybe talk to people who left faith, they left church structures, they left community. Why do they feel the way they feel? That comic may be something good and beneficial for you to at least, if not understand your own journey, understand someone else's journey. So I would recommend Thor, God of Thunder, number 6. And I believe...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did you got to talk to the author, that Jason Aaron?
I did live the dream, as we in the podcast community say. I did get to interview Jason Aaron, who is the writer. He's a proclaimed atheist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well...
Was that the question?
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Okay.
My final recommendation then, also Jason Aaron, Goddamned.
Yes, he wrote.
That's not a kid's book.
Oh, good grief. Follow up there. Go check out a book called The Goddamn. It's a reimagination of Cain after he slays Abel.
Yeah.
It's you know what? Damn, that was good.
Man.
Goddamned, that was good.
Yeah. Darkest Timeline.
Yeah.
Bible edition.
Yeah. That's if any of you are fans of Community, there's dark goatees everywhere.
Yeah.
During the darkest timeline.
Absolutely.
So guys, as we wrap up here, we're a little bit past time. I just want to thank everybody in the room here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for coming to the. Wait. Oh, thank you. The golf claps. I felt like we were at the Masters there for a second. So thank you for coming to this. Panelists. Tell them again where we can, because we do this in the podcasting world. Where can folks find your stuff, and where can they engage with you more?
Yeah, you can find the full range of the Christian Humanist Radio Network at christianhumanist.org.
Yeah. Also, we do have a list of our podcast as well as other podcasts on the board. If you want to just see some of our recommendations for geeky podcasts. I do the Whole Church podcast. You can find anywhere you find podcasts in Systematic Geekology. Same thing. We also have a website for that one. That's systematicgeekology.org, which is currently down because I'm reworking some stuff.
So don't go there right now.
Yeah, not right now.
Professional web designer, Joshua Noel, everybody. You can follow me on all the stuff at I am Ryan Doze, and then across the Bifrost, we put out episodes every week, and I've got a whole host of side projects. We've had Tripp Fuller on our podcast. We've had Will on our podcast. Josh has been a one-time guest. We talked about Jane, didn't
somehow
we?
just one. Yeah, well, yeah, you were doing that one you just talked about,
right.
And I love Gore the God Butcher.
So we talked about that. But thank you everybody for joining us for Superpower Happy Hour. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you all very, very much. We're gonna hang around for a little bit if you want to. I don't know. Tell us we're wrong, because that's like a nerdy spiritual practice, right?
Have you played Final Fantasy X?
I am.
So not to date you, but the Hutchins run was like my first.
I'm 45.
Yeah, but
It's
so my
probably
first
not
dive
as,
into